But every time I look at him, he's campaigning. I mean, here you see the Philippines, the heads of the Philippines, they're so angry. He leaves for China. He's now negotiating with China. We've been in the Philippines practically for forever.
The reckless act of Chinese warship chasing a smaller Philippine patrol boat has reignited tensions in the South China Sea.
In the early years, China was welcomed as a friend that promised growth for the Philippines. Leaders spoke about a new era of cooperation as Beijing offered money for roads, bridges, ports, and trains. These projects were introduced as signs of progress, and many believed they would change the country for the better. Hope was high that this partnership could bring faster development and stronger ties. Trade between the two nations also grew quickly. China became one of the biggest buyers of Philippine fruits, seafood, and other local products. In return, it sent machinery, steel, and electronics that supported construction and industry. Businesses saw this as a sign of closer cooperation. Tourism also added to the picture as more Chinese visitors explored Philippine beaches and cities, supporting hotels and small businesses along the way. Cultural exchanges gave the impression that the bond was becoming stronger. Scholarships allowed Filipino students to study in Chinese universities. Language programs opened in schools, and cultural events brought people together. For a while, it looked as if the two countries were building not just economic ties, but also a deeper connection. But over time, small doubts began to appear. Some projects slowed down or failed to deliver what was promised. Others raised concerns about debt and control. Many Filipinos started to wonder if these deals were truly helping the country. That slow shift from excitement to caution marked the beginning of a bigger divide that would grow in the years ahead. Before we continue, make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Your support allows us to share more about the Philippines and its role in shaping the world. When the partnership between China and the Philippines first began, it was introduced as a path to growth. China promised major projects like bridges, ports, and railways that looked like tools for progress. Leaders welcomed these offers with hope that cooperation would bring development faster than ever before. For many Filipinos, this seemed like the start of a brighter future. Trade became another important part of the relationship. China rose to be one of the largest buyers of Philippine exports such as bananas, pineapples, and seafood. In return, it sent products like electronics, machinery, and steel. Business groups saw this as a chance to grow and reach new markets. Tourism added more activity as Chinese visitors filled local beaches, resorts, and cities, giving extra income to hotels and shops. Cultural ties were also built to strengthen the connection. Scholarships opened doors for Filipino students in Chinese universities. Language programs were introduced in schools, and cultural events created exchanges between the two peoples. For a while, it seemed like the Philippines and China were building a strong friendship across many areas. But soon, challenges began to appear. Some of the promised projects faced long delays while others stopped halfway. Concerns grew about debt and about giving too much control to foreign partners. Slowly, the first signs of doubt began to grow. What started as a hopeful partnership was already showing the cracks that would later become much bigger issues. As trade and cultural ties were growing, another issue was quietly rising. The South China Sea became the center of a major conflict. China claimed almost the entire area through what it called the Nine-Dash Line. This included waters that the Philippines had long considered its own. Fishermen began to report being blocked from traditional fishing grounds. This turned what was once a distant concern into a direct problem for ordinary families. In 2013, the Philippines decided to take a historic step. It brought the dispute before the Permanent Court of Arbitration in The Hague. The case focused on whether China's sweeping claims had a basis under international law. After years of careful review, the tribunal delivered its decision in 2016. The court ruled in favor of the Philippines and declared that China's Nine-Dash Line had no legal foundation. The decision was celebrated across the Philippines as a victory for international law and for the rights of small nations to stand against larger powers. Yet China rejected the ruling and continued its activities in disputed waters. Artificial islands were built and military structures appeared on reefs. For the Philippines, this created a new challenge. It now held a legal victory on paper, but enforcing it was far more difficult in practice. This moment marked a turning point. The partnership that once seemed full of opportunity was now shadowed by conflict over sovereignty and security. The legal battle showed the world that the Philippines was ready to defend its rights, but it also revealed how complex and risky the path ahead would be. After years of tension and unresolved disputes, the Philippines under President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. began a noticeable shift in direction. He moved Philippine foreign policy toward a strategy that balances interests between major powers while protecting national sovereignty. Marcos declared early on that the Philippines will keep friends with all and enemies to none in his first State of the Nation address, emphasizing that its foreign policy is driven by peace and the national interest. In this view, cooperation is welcomed, but sovereignty is never surrendered. He deepened ties with the United States while still keeping channels open with China and other neighbors. Analysts see this as a clear decision to rely more on strong alliances for security assurance. Under his leadership, the Philippines approved expansion of access for U.S. military forces by increasing the number of Philippine bases available under the Enhanced Defense Cooperation Agreement from 5 to 9. At the same time, Marcos introduced what is called the Transparency Initiative, making public many incidents at sea involving Chinese ships, Coast Guard vessels, and Filipino fishermen. This approach replaced earlier silence and selective disclosure, helping to generate public support and international awareness. In international forums, Marcos has spoken firmly. In a moderated conversation, he once said that disengagement is not an option, and that the Philippines must continue to engage all partners in open dialogue while defending its territorial claims. In a separate televised speech, he stated that alliances strengthen safety for the nation and make it more secure in the face of aggressive actions. He has also insisted that Filipino interests come first. At an overseas summit, Marcos declared that he will not surrender a square inch of Philippine territory to any foreign power, making clear that cooperation does not mean concession. To support this strategic shift, Marcos has appointed Defense Secretary Gilbert Teodoro, who has taken a strong stance against incursions. Teodoro has likened some Chinese actions in Philippine waters to acts by illegal occupants. This rebalance has not been without risk. Marcos must walk a fine line between showing strength and avoiding direct confrontation. But this new posture marks a turning point. The Philippines is no longer a quiet bystander in the seas, but an active player shaping its path through strategy, diplomacy, and alliances. After President Marcos Jr. shifted strategy, the Philippines began to strengthen its defense partnerships. The clearest sign of this was the expansion of the Enhanced Defense Cooperation Agreement with the United States. Originally, the agreement allowed American forces to rotate through 5 bases in the Philippines. Under Marcos, this was expanded to 9 bases, giving U.S. troops access to more strategic locations across Luzon and Palawan. These areas are close to the South China Sea and Taiwan, which makes them critical in case of conflict. Joint exercises also increased in size and frequency. The Balikatan exercises in 2023 became the largest in the history of the alliance, with more than 17,000 troops from both countries. These drills included live fire training in coastal defense and rehearsals for island protection. The message was clear. The Philippines is no longer standing alone, but working hand in hand with its oldest ally. Defense agreements were also renewed with other partners. Japan signed a deal to allow its self-defense forces to train in the Philippines, while discussions on a reciprocal access agreement continued. Australia expanded its defense exercises as well, and committed to helping the Philippines improve its Coast Guard operations. These new arrangements are not just about training. They are designed to send a signal to the world that the Philippines is protected by alliances. For the Filipino people, this means added security. For potential aggressors, it means greater risks if they choose to escalate. Through these steps, the Philippines has moved from being cautious to being active in shaping the balance of power in the region. What was once a quiet foreign policy has now become a defense strategy built on cooperation with trusted allies. As defense agreements grew stronger, the voice of the Filipino people became more important. Surveys showed that public trust in China fell sharply while support for closer ties with the United States rose. Many Filipinos expressed concern over Chinese actions in the West Philippine Sea and supported the government's decision to stand firm. Domestic politics also reflected this mood. Leaders in Congress and the Senate began to call for more transparency on deals with foreign powers. They backed initiatives that would increase funding for the military and the Coast Guard. National debates often focused on how to protect fishermen and secure Philippine waters. President Marcos Jr.'s tougher position also found wide support. His public approval ratings remained strong as he promised that Philippine territory would not be given away. Statements such as his pledge to defend every inch of the nation's land and sea were met with applause during official speeches. For ordinary citizens, the issue was not just about politics. It was about daily life. Fishermen wanted safe access to the sea. Families wanted peace of mind that their country was being defended. The growing public awareness and pressure gave the government more reason to continue a stronger stance. While trade with China brought opportunities, it also created risks. China became the Philippines' largest trading partner, and this heavy dependence raised concerns. When political disputes grew sharper, some shipments of fruit were suddenly delayed or rejected. This showed how trade could be used as leverage, placing Filipino farmers and exporters in a vulnerable position. Security risks also became clear. Chinese-funded projects such as ports and telecom systems raised questions about control and data safety. Analysts warned that too much reliance on a single partner could allow foreign powers to influence critical infrastructure. Some projects were already canceled because of doubts about debt and transparency. These issues pushed the Philippines to diversify. Leaders began exploring stronger ties with Japan, South Korea, Australia, and India to balance trade and reduce risks. Building connections with more partners not only protects the economy, but also makes the country safer from pressure. This growing awareness helped shape public opinion and policy. The Philippines realized that economic growth cannot come at the cost of sovereignty and national security. Choosing balance over dependence became the clear path forward. Despite its size and resources, China faced limits in its approach to the Philippines. It promised big investments and infrastructure, but many projects were delayed or never finished. This weakened trust among Filipinos who expected faster results. At the same time, China did not manage to win the deep cultural and people-to-people ties that countries like the United States and Japan had built over decades. China also struggled with soft power. While it could offer loans and trade deals, it could not give the same sense of security that formal defense partners provided. The Philippines watched closely how Beijing handled disputes in the South China Sea, and many saw more pressure than partnership. This made Filipinos doubt whether China truly respected their sovereignty. In the end, China's influence grew, but it was never complete. What it could not achieve was winning the lasting confidence of the Filipino people who continued to look for balanced partnerships instead of relying on one dominant power. China's challenges in the Philippines send a clear message across Asia. Influence built on money and pressure is not enough to win lasting trust. Countries in the region are watching closely, and many see the Philippines as an example of standing firm while keeping strong ties with other partners. For China, this creates a larger problem. Every delay in promised projects and every clash in the South China Sea weakens its image not only in Manila but across Southeast Asia. Neighbors like Vietnam, Malaysia, and Indonesia see the same risks and become more cautious in dealing with Beijing. The result is a region that is slowly moving toward balance. Instead of depending on one giant power, many countries are strengthening ties with each other and with outside partners. The Philippines stands at the center of this shift, showing that even smaller nations can shape the direction of regional security and cooperation. The story of the Philippines and China is more than a regional dispute. It shows how even a smaller nation can stand firm when its sovereignty is at stake. The Philippines has proven that unity, resilience, and smart diplomacy can balance against the influence of a much larger larger power. For China, the lesson is clear. True partnerships are built not just on promises, but on trust and respect. And for the rest of Asia, the message is equally strong. The choices made in Manila will continue to shape the future of the region. If you found this video insightful, make sure to like it and subscribe for more deep dives into global issues. Share your thoughts in the comments. Do you think the Philippines can continue to balance between global powers, or will tensions grow in the years ahead? Your voice matters, and we would love to hear it.